allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and thank you everyone for coming. I'll call the meeting to order. We have our public comment period, which is a time we allow 3 minutes per person to make any comments to the board. It's not really a public hearing or a question and answer, it's public comment. So, who would like to go first?
Where's your friends? Who are your friends?
Your neighbors,
Not mine.
Mr. Rogers' neighbors. Jim.
I have some questions pertaining to snowmobiling. So I want to read this real quick. Snowmobiling in Adirondack Park, snowmobiling in the Adirondack Park, environmental and social impacts. This is page 1 from Elizabeth Bauer, St. Lawrence University, written in 2005. It says, snowmobile trails must be properly maintained and built so that they are wide enough for two-way traffic and major hazards are removed. Trails must be built to connect multiple trail systems together without having snowmobiles rely on lake crossings to get from one trail to another due to the fact that ice is often thin and unsafe for crossing. Land access rights are also a problem in the Adirondacks due to the mosaic of public and private lands. In order to create trail connectivity, access across private land is needed. Snowmobile clubs often have been the ones paying for and maintaining these trails, but the state should also work with landowners so that there is a right-of-way for snowmobiles to use.
Yeah.
Okay, so I come up with this map right here. And this map is the snowmobile map that I got off of the internet.
Yeah.
And it shows where the snowmobiles have to cross Little Wolf Lake. Right where an outlet is and right where an inlet.
Small people play.
Okay.
But there's also another road that should connect.
Okay.
It's South Little Wolf and
What do you mean it should connect?
actually when I pulled a bunch of maps up out of Mitchell Lane. And I have this pulled up at a real property.
Okay.
And you can see where the road goes through those two lots. Every one of these maps is off of real properties.
Okay.
Yeah, and then this is the map that all deed deferred. Township 22, Great Track 1, Bacon's purchase, Franklin County, New York.
Yep.
Macomb.
Macomb? Okay, thank you. And then I have
Yes,
some newer maps that are in 2011. There's some things that have changed. But I think the snowmobiles should have access to there, and I think a public road right now is being posted. And then
Is this is what you're talking about on South Little Wolf?
Yeah, yes, and I'm asking the town to look into this for the snowmobilers and for the public.
So
Because this belongs to the public.
I don't think so.
Okay, so
I
that's what I want to know.
I want to say that what you're seeing here is new trees placed on a road opening, which is private property, owned, and the owners of the property extended an easement to the village to put the new water line in extension for down there on Mitchell Lane. They, when they put all their pipe in from the new wells down at Pitchfork, they got an easement to put water through there because they had to have another spot to come into the village. And so the deal was, I understand, is that the
snowmobilers used to go through there.
but that property is privately owned, and the understanding was that there would be an easement granted and the water line goes through. The contractor was to replace the existing, there were some smaller
Do
trees
you
in there.
have this
I don't
contractor?
have, that would be something, that's not our easement, that's the village's.
Okay,
The water line with the village.
Okay, so the village is the one who I need to speak to about having that open?
I don't think you're gonna get it open for one thing, because it's private property.
But actually, it doesn't. I don't think that road is private property.
Yeah,
that
the
property.
South Little Wolf, Billy DeShane sadly isn't here tonight because he had to be somewhere
It
else.
actually goes into one,
So-
shows it right under, because this is
Well, we'll have to do some
Yes.
looking into that.
That's what I
because
want, because it actually expanded to it, expanded 50 feet.
my understanding is that South Little Wolf ends,
You're saying as you're showing, this is
Sonny
real
Poirier
property.
just brought
and
some
it
bought
doesn't show it.
property and he's at the end where it becomes private. Now, normally our plow truck would go down there and turn around, but they were turning around on private property. And now that is also gated
See,
off.
And see,
So
and I don't
our
believe,
plow truck can't
as you're
go
saying,
through.
I don't believe that's private property.
But
So that's where
Yeah.
I think that we.
my
need to do-
understanding
I don't
it is it is, but
Because it shows the road there, and it shows it on every map, and every one of these maps was printed out of real properties.
so here's what I suggest
This
you
is
do,
what-
two things.
Well, this is a tax map.
But
This was Mitchell Lane.
this is the 2011 tax map, this is where it was changed. This is where it was changed. And your signature's on this whole big map.
Okay, because it looks like, Jim, to me, reading the survey map, and I've done a number of them, whoever owns this property
Crystal Mirror,
owns this dirt road.
Yeah,
yeah, that's Crystal Mirror.
Yeah.
But then as I've been doing some research,
Yep,
there's roads that are left open and all the deeds, I have the deeds.
yeah,
And the deeds always refer to Macomb's purchase. This
Yeah.
one right here, that I got, right out of real property.
yeah.
And it shows Mitchell Lane right here. So there's an extra, it shows it hitting the lake.
Does it show it was owned by a Boyer at one time?
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
So Jim Facto bought that property, and I know because I built him a house right there. He owns the other side of that common road.
Yep.
He owns where those new trees are
it's
planted.
all private property, to my knowledge.
Jim,
Okay,
Jim
that's
Facto
right on
owns
there.
where the new
So
trees
now
are.
that we're at this point, I think that maybe, because I think it's a situation dealing with the taxpayers and dealing with even our tourism and all the snowmobiling that we're talking about, that this is a situation we're making a break off. We're breaking off from here to St. Louis County. Other than having to go down, this part of the tracks. But that's the only corner that they can make, other than crossing the lake.
Right,
So why can't they make that corner?
well, that is between the Snowmobile Association and the private property owners.
This is hurting Tupper
That's
Lake.
not the town's property, so, I mean, I don't know what the,
And actually, I see a major increase at one point in time, so
in what,
I know some things happen.
in what?
You can see a very major increase, you can have this in the property value in 1 year.
Yeah.
Major
Well,
increase.
yeah, I mean,
you build a house or something?
But what I think is they gain the extra
Yeah.
50 feet of land. And
they
the
got
extra
more
50
property.
That extra 50 feet of land belonged to the town. That was a road right away there, it was a street.
Did you find any history
But
on the
that's-
town,
This is as
of
much
the town
as
turning over any property to these people?
well, this is what I'm looking into.
So you know what, maybe,
So this is,
why don't you come up, make an appointment to see our Paul O'Leary assessor and
exactly, and
go
I
through
started
the
with
maps
him,
that
and
he
then I
wants.
want him to really sit down
Yeah.
and really explain
Well,
it.
talk to him about it and he can help you, he can do
Okay.
some research on
This is
that.
excellent, I agree, that's what I would like
Yeah.
to do. I would like him to accept me in his
Yeah.
office
Sure.
and not
Well, yeah,
limit me to a few minutes.
yeah, well, make an
Hey,
appointment
Jim,
and tell
to
him you
get-
wanna come in and talk.
you're concerned about getting from here to heading toward Matumla?
Yes,
As an alternative, what about just coming down here?
that's exactly what I'm saying. That's
Oh, I see.
exactly what I'm
That's
saying.
where
Oh,
the
this is,
question is,
So
Okay,
you are
okay.
right.
yeah.
Okay, I thought this was, I misread the map.
So I'm very glad that you said that because that is right. In fact, I'm the one who wrote that red in there.
Oh, I thought this was a
No,
snowmobile trail.
Yeah, but this is orange.
Oh, this is
orange. This is orange. This is the snowmobile mountain.
Okay.
But this is
Okay.
where I'm explaining it.
Yeah.
But that right there should be the way they're going, not near an outlet and coming
Okay.
in near an inlet.
Mhm.
And you can see even back then, you can see the street even connected right there on this map.
Well, I think it'd be a good question for the,
Yeah, and I think it's a really a good
town.
question.
I can't answer that question.
No.
My
but I wanna know.
understanding is that that's all private property down there.
Exactly, that's what it is. We're under
Because
the
I know we've
understanding, but I
had
think the
questions
understanding
about
is wrong.
people and plowing and turning the plow around on private or public
And
and
that's
that
why I
sort of
think,
thing.
actually, I think that should be open right up.
Yeah,
Plows, the people should be able to drive right through
Yeah.
there because it's a street.
it'd be interesting to see, but I don't think it's ours.
From the other side.
Okay, no, that's excellent, that's all I have to say.
You can sign in for me,
At least I got
so
one
we can
point
put your
there.
name in the free press. you
I wonder if
didn't
you
know
were
because you were
contacting
playing
the
tax the
snowmobile.
other day. Good
In
job.
fact, I wanted to.
I was so impressed with that job, and I didn't know it was you.
So actually, and I even got some information. Pete Evers has been
Yeah,
the coordinator for many
Yeah.
years. And he's on.
Adirondack and the Flurry boy, I think, isn't it? His dad.
Yeah.
Sign in,
There's
Toots.
a lot of times,
That's your sign in
it's my
sheet.
understanding, the different snowmobile clubs will go to private landowners and say, hey, would you grant us an easement and we'll hold you harmless, you know, get them under their
Somebody,
insurance.
You're right, and there's
somebody
even
spent
some
a lot
other.
of money on planting
You already
trees
came
there.
for
Yeah, and actually, like I said, but should those trees
Are
be
you not in
there?
school?
See, that's what I wanna know. I wanna know, how much did it cost to put those trees? Who put them there?
Contract.
You keep the
But
sheet,
who
give it back to me when
actually
you're
had
done.
it, had it,
It was through the easement that Chris gave to the village to put the water line through there.
Yeah,
okay, so the village put that.
And because I
yeah.
know he's very,
The easement would have been with the
Okay,
village.
because see, I'm gonna ask the
So you
village
could
too.
check
I'm gonna
that
ask-
too, because I don't know what's in that easement.
Okay.
But go see Mary and ask her.
and talked to Paul.
Okay.
Call Paul and make an appointment, Jimmy Lee.
Yeah, he'll be happy to go over it with you.
I'm gonna wanna be with you for an hour or so, whatever, you know, and set up where he can. have
And I
you
do
come
want
in.
to say that on a closing note about this topic, for you guys who are here from the high school.
Thank you, Jimmy.
We're talking about public versus private property, for snowmobiling purposes. Any of you guys ride? You don't go on private property, right? You know that. So, your father never did,
They got
so
enough
why
property
would you?
down
But anyway.
Good answer.
This is down at Little Wolf on South Little Wolf Road, we're talking about that, whether there's access or not at the end of that road. And our understanding is there's private property, private road down there. It looks like a town road, it acts like a town road, but it's not a town road, we think. So that's a understanding that would have to be cleared up from what you're looking at, Jim. But, so that's what we do, and then, you know, I wanna top that off by making a comment about foiling the town.
Yes.
You sent a FOIL in recently, and a lot of a FOIL is a Freedom of Information law request for information for documents. It is not for, I'm giving you 30 questions I want you to answer. It's for, I want a copy of that easement that gave permission for Patty Littlefield to cross John Quinn's property to put a water line in. That's what I would like a copy of. So that's the way the FOIL is. We explain that to you when we reply.
Yes, no, thank you. And yes, and actually, the answer I got was good because
Yeah.
when I send it out, what's nice about a FOIL is whether you have the answer or not, you still have to respond within 5 days, even
Yeah.
saying that you don't have the answer, which is
Well-
good. So, which that is
And sometimes
Nice.
it's been my experience, because I too have foiled sometimes. You send the foil out and you get a reply back in 5 days that you'll get an answer to your question we've received within 30 days. We don't have to turn the answer around for the document copy because sometimes it's not like readily available, we may have to look for it. We're not obligated to create a document. If it's a real document, you'll get a copy of it happily. If you ask for, in the case of a gentleman who ran for town board that constantly puts advertising in the paper that we don't give him the proper answer to his FOIL, here is an assessment of a piece of property. That gives you the value placed on your property for taxing purposes. Here is an appraisal of your piece of property. That is a professionally done appraisal that tells you what somebody thinks your property is worth for sale. Now, my property might be assessed for $100,000, and I might be lucky to get $100,000, or maybe the appraiser says it's worth $130,000. But if you ask for an assessment, that's what you get. If you want an appraisal, you need to ask for an appraisal. And in the example I'm talking about, that was not done properly. The assessment was asked for, the assessment was granted. No one asked for an appraisal. And I have said that time and time again, so I'm saying it for the last time for you guys to understand the difference between an assessment and appraisal. And that makes it difficult on our records person, Mrs. Fuller, who takes care of these answers, and she replies to all of these in a timely fashion, and we give them the information they asked for. If you don't know what you're asking for, you're only gonna get what you asked for, because we can't read your mind. In that case, come into the town hall, speak to us, ask us questions, ask the assessor, ask the town clerk, call me on the phone, send us an email. How do I get this information? I really wanna know what the appraisal is. What do I ask for? The appraisal. I wanna know who owns this property. Come and see the assessor. Or you did a lot of research at real property. That's also a good place to
Yeah,
go.
I actually,
So, you know, it's,
I've been on this for a
FOILs
year.
are just real documents, real things
Mhm.
that we have in paper form, nothing more.
I actually went down, I went down to Malone, I went into Real Properties.
Yeah.
I got the maps, these are just printouts of the maps, but I
Yeah.
actually got the
And they're
maps.
very accommodating.
And I spent over $100 there. I spent like $150 for maps and deeds.
Yep,
And you can get anything that you want.
Yeah.
So I've been doing a lot of research.
yep.
So
And that's
before
good.
I came up front with you on this, I wanted to make sure that I had at least something.
But,
Yeah.
so I just wanna make that comment because I just got really tired of being accused of not providing information when you're asking for one thing but wanting another. Know the difference. Or ask us and we'll give you the difference. But writing it and then accusing is a whole different story. And as long as I'm on that little side trip here, I want to talk about a $125,000 bank account that we are accused of hiding somewhere. I want to say that when Mike DeShane and John Quinn and Patty Littlefield got elected to the board, there was an account over in Saranac Lake at NBT Bank that had $125,000 in it. By the way, there was no record of why it was there or what it was there for. We made this board and our two re-elected council people, Tracy and Mary, by the way, were not on the board at the time, and they're being accused of doing something wrong, and all the campaigning that's been going on. We chose as a board back then in 2014 or 15, I don't know the exact date. Why do we have $125,000 in a bank in Saranac Lake that is not the official depository of and for town of Tupper Lake funds?
That's the question.
So, why is that money there in the first place, and we don't know why it's there? So what do we do with it? Well, we transfer it back to the official depository in its rightly placed at Community Bank in Tupper Lake. That was also explained in September to the gentleman who was running against these two ladies for town. So then he continued to write false, very false accusations in the paper for his election. I want to make that crystal clear. That money is sitting in the community bank, and once again, when he asked for a FOIL of a document of the most recent bank statement for NBT Bank, he got a bank statement copy properly and promptly sent to him with $0 in it, because that's how much money was in it. He did not come in and say, hey, what happened to the $125,000 you guys had at NBT? We would have said, we transferred it over to Community Bank, where it belongs. I know I'm on a soapbox right now, but I feel Tupper Lake needs to have the answer to this, because these two ladies, who I congratulate over and over again for keeping their head high during this campaign, won this election fair and square, and were accused of things. They were not even on the board at the time those things happened. That is very, very wrong in my book. The town of Tupper Lake is an open book. You come in here, we'll answer as many questions as we can. You want to foil us, we will answer what you foil us.
I agree with what you just said, because
I do not want to be accused of, and I take very much offense to us being accused of any wrongdoing or withholding information from the public. And I just need to make that crystal clear. So you guys, once again, the Tupper Lake High School is lucky enough to be here at a board meeting to hear Mrs. Littlefield go out on a little bit of a rant about the right and wrongs of these elected officials. Okay? If anyone has a question, I'll take it right now, then we'll proceed with the board meeting.
That's what you call transparency.
Yes, you better believe it. And
can I
holy
spit
crow,
one
I
more
get very
piece on this
insulted.
piece? And I agree with you, because about the people, about what goes on before the board is there, because you come in at different times. And even this, with the road and all this, we're talking many years. Some of you people weren't even around.
There are
And I'm
many
sure that you
things-
don't even know what
That's
I'm
right.
talking about.
There are many things
Or
that
you may or
come
may
before
not,
this
but in that
board
certain area.
that we were not here for and that we had no record of.
Yeah, and you weren't in office then.
No?
No, you weren't.
No,
And I
I know
looked
I
into this. So,
Yeah.
so I made sure
Yeah.
before I came to you that I knew
Yeah.
even that you had nothing to do with this.
So I really need to adjust
Yes.
that. And I do have one more thing for the open comment period.
I have an open comment.
Yes.
Hello.
We'll love to hear from you.
We always
And we're also happy that you come to our meetings all the
Oh,
time.
well, I wanted to just say, Mercy Living Center, we had our Halloween haunted house at the end of October 31st, and well attended even through the flooding. It was crazy. Crazy
Bad
rain
weather,
once again.
yeah.
Really bad weather. But people came, it was fun. They saw, they came, they screamed, they cried, whatever it was. So it was a lot of fun. And on this coming Monday evening at Racket River Brewery, we're having a paint and sip. If anybody wants to come, there's signs up around to support our staff retention committee, and some of those proceeds go towards the children's Christmas party and things like that. So we
Nice.
just keep it moving, plus some internal things as well. But
I don't paint, but I sure can step.
yeah.
I've never been to a paint and sip and always wanted to, so maybe
I
I'll
actually
pop
stopped
down
going
there.
to the haunted house because I was too scared.
Oh, good job. Well
So
done.
just a lot of fun. It's fun to meet people and everything.
Madeline, what's the first thing the paint sip you said is to benefit something, paint, and then you said the children's activities?
Our Mercy Living Center Staff Retention Committee.
Oh, Stafford.
Mhm. So we plan all this stuff as we go and try to build our funds for the events.
So thank you, Mercy Center, for having the vets.
Thank you. Oh my
Oh,
goodness. I
that
cannot
was so
believe I didn't
beautiful.
mention that.
was,
Our
well
veteran
done.
ceremony was outstanding, and I was only there for a little bit of it, but we had actually a total of 17 vets. Not all of them
Can't believe
attended.
that. That's
17
awesome.
vets.
Very cool.
It's just, and actually a couple from World War II.
Yes.
So, and in the area, in the activity room, we created red, white, and blue type things, and we had staff put their relatives if they were in the military. So we have staff who are also veterans as well. So it's just a lot of fun.
The whole
The
thing
high
was so
school-
well done.
Yeah, the high school band was there.
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
the high school band.
Yeah.
There
Right
we go.
here.
Thank you so much.
There's the
much
tax
fun
girl in the
playing.
back right there.
Um,
Oh
and,
my
and I
gosh.
will say this, just a comment about that, because I really appreciate the fact that one, they come every year, but also, people could just come play and leave, but these kids didn't do that.
No.
These kids, after they
It's
finished
fun
playing, was
hanging
over.
around there, right?
They went around and shook all the veterans' hands and
Isn't
everything.
that great?
So that was really, thank you very much. Showed a lot of respect.
It's really fun playing for them, actually. It's like
Yeah.
my favorite part of the whole entire day.
You can only imagine how much that means to them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they
How
got
many of you guys were in that band?
blankets.
Ah,
Very
nice
nice.
job.
Thank you very much. And they got, they have flowers from the Women's Rotary, and I'm not the one who directly does it. They got I think it was
Shirts from the
shirts.
Yeah, they got
They
the
did make
shirts.
it blankets. I don't know.
They
They had all
got
sorts of
quilts
stuff.
from the Mountain Mama.
Very
Those are
cool.
so pretty. Those are
They
Yeah,
are
very
so
cool.
pretty.
Just everything. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
They were-
Everything was fantastic. So we keep rolling with it. So
Oh, I love
we
it.
want to.
Yeah, that
Respect
was a great
everybody.
day. Does anyone else have any comments before I just read one that I got an email asked to respond? The Clims aren't here this evening, but this is related to some of the things they've been in here for. I received this email and it was asked to read it on behalf of Linda Shaw because she's not able to come tonight, she's out of town. And she said, "Hi, my name is Linda Shaw. I have other obligations and could not attend, but would like this read at the November town board meeting. I also have to ambulate for medical and personal goals. I would like to review some other resources available to those in the community, especially those elderly folks who need alternatives and sidewalks, especially this time of year, I might add. The track at the elementary school is open walk when not be utilized for an athletic activity. There also is a track walkway behind the high school that can be used, and there is a very scenic walkway at the park. That's great. Also, Sunmount offers arthritic swim time from Monday through Friday to those seniors who sign up at the adult center. The cost is $2 a month, and it's a therapeutic pool, handicap accessible. Thank you. Did we all know that? See?
And I also point out, I think they have a walking program at the elementary school.
Yes,
So you
Walk the halls.
have
Yep.
out of the weather.
You
nice,
go
safe
into the
walkways.
office and get a little ticket, you know, an ID sort of thing for permission, right? And there's a lot of activity in there,
That's excellent.
during the evenings. So,
I think Mr. McClellan used to use that quite often.
And gonna start, I missed the first night last night, but we'll be back there tomorrow night.
It's not much to get
Fastest
signed up
walker
for.
there,
You-
Michael, I'm still the fastest walker.
Yes, you are. Yeah, tears up the carpet behind him.
okay. So, thank you everyone for listening to all that. Well, I do have one item to add to establish the agenda, and that we'll call under new business, 10.8. We need to, set a time and date for a public hearing on the water and sewer district consolidation. Those are the districts that have been paid off in 2019. We have to have a public hearing to authorize transferring those paid districts over to District 1, water and sewer. As you recall, when we did that awesome consolidation study, we decided that all the paid off districts were gonna be number 1, so we dropped our district count substantially. And as the districts get paid off at the end of each year, we will transfer those over to District 1. So eventually, we'll wind down to, we'll have a couple of lone districts that stick out there on their own for a while because they're very expensive to operate, and those are the districts with grinder pumps. So for now, we have, we'll set those over to District 1, and we'll have a public hearing. I would like to have that public hearing on the day of our next board meeting, December 14th, or December 12th? No, 14th. What day is it? 12th. December 12th, and start it at 6 o'clock, and then followed by the regular meeting, if that's okay with the board. We're all gonna be here anyway. And that will work into our time frame of having it done by the end of the year.
So we'll act on that when we go through.
Yeah. Yeah, so if those dates are good, we'll use those. Okay?
Patty, I noticed in our package, a copy of the Adirondack Daily Enterprise article about the
Oh, I just threw that in today,
new rail
because I
trail.
printed it out.
We've been supportive of these efforts.
Totally.
And maybe you all haven't read it. I have time to read these things.
I
I did read the new and improved unit management plan,
I didn't read that yet.
and I would certainly ask for this board's endorsement of it. Maybe if you don't feel comfortable doing it, I can tell you it's an improvement over the original one. But if you want time to read and get familiar with it before we act on it, but I think this board should endorse this most recent unit management plan effort.
Yeah, I did get a chance to read the article in the paper. It sounds like it's moving forward pretty
They
good.
corrected the deficiencies that the court found against them, and
Yeah,
I think we gotta keep this thing moving, and I would,
Absolutely. So shall we put that on an item, add that to,
If-
as
10.9.
10.9?
if the board is comfortable with it.
Yeah, I'd like to add that to,
I'm good with it.
support and endorse
Great.
the, UMP for the, we're calling that the Remsen, or no, corridor, C7, right? Is that C7?
It's the Remsen Lake Placid Travel Corridor.
By the way, that was on the agenda at the APA today at 3 o'clock, and I was sort of waiting for a call from DOT on it to see how that went, but I didn't get it yet, so.
Was it there just for information and not
Yeah.
for action?
Yeah, I told them we would be meeting tonight if there was anything they'd like to pass on.
They had a map of what the development would look like in Tupper Lake. It was pretty extensive parking lots and
Was that at the unit, was that at the APA meeting?
yes, yeah.
It was an appendix, it's an appendix to the unit management plan. Nice. A lot of parking.
Yeah,
for people that are using the trails.
And then a road further down the trail, so the Route 3 is blocked. I think it was like 150 miles you'd have to drive to go around otherwise.
Right. That's something we brought to their attention.
Oh, did you? Okay.
yeah, yeah, we've been talking to them about it since we started the, way back when we had, the stakeholders committee meetings over at DEC, of which from Tupper Lake, the representatives that were there for all the meetings were myself and Paul O'Leary and Pete Edwards representing Tupper Lake. Pete is a rider, so it was nice because he knew that corridor very, very well, so he was a big help, big asset to that. And we actually, remember when that trailer, something fell off a trailer down in front of Main Street Restaurant a couple of years ago, and then traffic was held up. Nobody could come uptown or downtown for a couple hours while they were getting that, and we knew about the little, if you grew up at the junction like I did, you knew about that little cross street where you could have a gate, and so they put that in the plan, which was really good. So, yeah. They had that map out today?
Yes, yeah. It was part of a slideshow that he was showing.
Did you go to the meeting?
Yes, yeah.
Was it well attended?
Yeah.
Nice.
Uneventful though. Not a whole lot
Yeah.
of controversy this month.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for telling us that, Aaron. Appreciate it. Okay. Anything else to add to the agenda?
No.
So, once again, since we're about to start the official meeting, I would like to congratulate formally our 2 re-elected board members, and very thankful that they were, the town of Tupper Lake re-elected them to more to stay with us for the next 4 years. So
Yeah,
that's,
thank you, Tupper Lake.
Yep,
And I
thank
look
you,
forward
Tupper
to
Lake.
another 4 years. It's been, a great privilege to serve Tupper Lake for 4 years, and I look forward to another 4 more.
nice.
Here we go.
Okay.
Then extend our thanks to our clerk and the highway
Yes, and Lori
superintendent.
and Billy.
They were re-elected too.
Unopposed, and to thank your opponents. It's always good to have a choice, and Tupper Lake made a choice, and I congratulate you guys for being that choice. Enjoy serving
Thank
you.
you, John.
Thank you,
That's
John.
nice.
Okay. Number 5 we're up to. Approve the abstract of audited vouchers in the amount of $157,725.09 and approve budget transfers in the amount of $6,092.28.
Can you take it all at once, Pat?
Yep.
I'll make the motion to.
Thank you.
Second.
Mike and John. Any questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Number 6 on the agenda is to approve the minutes for the meetings dated September 12th, September 26th, and October 10th, as submitted by the clerk.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Jonathan.
I just have one of those September meetings, and I think it was a work session, or
26.
the 26th, was it?
Yeah.
I was not in attendance, so I'll abstain from that one, but the other 2 I will.
So we have to take that 2 different things then.
Yeah.
Okay,
September 12th and October 10th.
we'll move those.
So Mike and, or Mary
Mary, and I'll second it.
and Mike for the September 12th
and 10th.
and 10/10, Lori.
Yep.
And I could have a roll call vote on that.
Aye.
And then separately, we will approve the minutes for the meeting dated September 26th.
I'll move that.
Mike,
I'll second. Oh, go ahead.
Tracy,
So you.
questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
One abstention.
4 plus 1 abstain. Okay. Thank you. So now we're at the town monthly reports. We have the code enforcement officer report. We have the youth activities, tumbling, it's awesome. Kids are loving it, getting ready for skiing. I think I reported at the last meeting that we got a grant from the Adirondack Foundation for $1,500 for the Nordic skiing program. But I'll say it again because we're so happy and appreciative of that. And I went over for the ceremony this year. And it's wonderful to see all these kids that are Olympic hopefuls getting some grants from the Adirondack Foundation as well to pursue their dreams. And these kids are so well-spoken and so impressive. It was a great event, and we appreciate it, and the Tupper Lake High School also received a check for their ski club, so, to assist with some of that. So it was, they're very, very generous to Tupper Lake and for any of our items that particularly involve the young people, so that's a good thing. So, and we have our dog control, report.
I just brought that in, Johnson, you can
Okay.
put that there.
And the highway report, which is plowing and culverts and sanding and making sure the trucks are in good order. I think everybody had a copy of that in their packet. Could I get a motion to approve the town monthly reports as submitted?
I'll make a motion.
Tracy?
Go ahead.
Mary? Questions or comments? Roll call vote?
Aye.
Committee reports. Mary?
Well, the country club roof, I know Mike can speak more on that, but, with that wonderful weather that we had, the town suffered some, losses to some of our buildings here, some casualties to some of our buildings. The shingles on the country club roof, we lost a group of those, and I think it was Chris Lemieux
Yes.
who responded really quickly and did the repairs for us, and thankfully we didn't have any damage inside. And then, I know that this was, talked about a little bit in the public, was the wind took our door and, overextended it. So the front door here, you have to come in the back, is, not in use right now, but Patty did say that we had some parts come in and it will be fixed, pretty soon with a spring that'll keep it from happening again. So it was, an act of God that damaged our door.
Not only
Not
here,
lacking any maintenance here, nothing we could prevent, but, shouldn't happen again in the future.
Well, because we have the little button that automatically opens the door, then it kind of lets the door kind of hang there, not latched. So when the wind blows a certain way, or somebody just came in and the door didn't close all the way, and because it's not pinning the little latch, the door is subject to a swoosh, and that's what happened. And so if we were to do it differently, we could not have that panic bar locked, but then somebody wouldn't be able to push the button to have the door automatic. So it's, you know, we're trying to make the building fully accessible, and having the button to push open the door makes you have to lock down the panic bar.
50-mile-an-hour winds did
But
damage all
that
over.
is,
Look at the
oh my
trees that were
goodness,
uprooted,
yeah.
and
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
this is not just a normal wind.
And we had a lot of wind when the door was on the Demars Boulevard facing side, and that was constantly blowing in the wind. And it had a barrier on either side, and it still caught the wind. So we thought by moving the main entrance this way, it would help it a bit. So that was very unusual and very extreme. So lots of damage around town from that. There's trees down all over the place and some roof damage as well.
Doors blown off.
Yep, and doors blown off. So
Was someone critical about the door being damaged?
Not really, but there was talk about it, you know, because it's
it's
new,
all
a new
because
addition.
we have an addition on the building. That's
Okay.
the problem.
So, you know, it is what it is.
Right, the actuator get damaged or something?
Not the actual.
No, it's just the hinge got overextended, and we'll put one of those safety chain things that catches it, you know, just when it goes open, so it can only open a certain maximum.
It was talked about during the design,
Yep,
and we decided, the people on the board, we preferred to have the door open that way, so if the wind was blowing, at least they could get the door open. If somebody comes with a wheelchair and they push the button and it's trying to open up
I guess.
against the wind, they're not gonna be able to get in.
yeah.
So we opted the 50-50 chance, we'll
Yeah.
go this way.
It's one of those.
Nobody got hurt?
Nobody
No.
got hurt, no, there wasn't even anybody going through it when it happened.
And will the insurance, is that an insurance
Um,
claim, or is that?
I haven't turned that in to the insurance yet, but we can, once we get the parts,
I
because
mean,
we'll just install the parts.
there was a state of emergency here, so I'm sure
Yeah.
the insurance company's not gonna give us anything.
And they are gonna cover the
I mean, they
roof
just
shingles
declared
at the country club,
catastrophic, but
so
I think, I mean,
that's already been submitted.
With regard to that roof at the country club, is there anything that can be done to make it not an annual event? It seems like last year we had shingles blow off. I've heard different things, that you don't use KO shingles for a roof that's
Jesse,
subject to
could you
wind?
probably answer
It's
that?
probably some of the nailing too, the way
It's
that,
a lot of it is timing too. So you know, if the roof is installed during non-peak, you know, like the time of year up there, so they're doing it late in the fall or early in the spring, you actually don't get a good adhesion when laying the shingles down.
and the number of nails put in too.
You
That-
know,
that-
that there's all new technology with
Yeah.
nails. You know, Owens Corning come out with it's a sure nail shingle. They're no more money. They have a layer of Kevlar where you nail.
Hmm.
Will that stop a 70-mile-an-hour wind?
Gust, yeah.
You know, it's
We get wind in Tupper Lake, people, go to the beach, right, Ava? There's a little wind down
If
there.
it'd be a design
guys.
flaw from day one where the building roof line is facing
Yeah.
up that whole, you know what I mean? So
That roof isn't that old.
it's not that old. It's
No.
10 years old. Maybe?
Not
Maybe
mine.
That one,
I've
someone
had
also
time
said,
to-
I'm not a roofer, so I don't know, but using less reveal for the upper shingles will stiffen them up some, I don't know.
It doesn't, it doesn't. Every time you lay a course of shingles, the next course you put down, you're actually re-nailing that course below it. So, you know, the common practice is 5 nails of shingle, you're actually putting 10 nails of shingle in. If it's done in the spring and the summer heat can actually get to it to where the tar melts and they stick, it's better, but still
Well, that
70
part-
miles an hour when it's cold too, the shingles are stiff.
Right.
Yeah.
And as soon as it gets under them, they can't give, they just tear off.
Last winter that happened, and it was basically in the same area, not exactly, but very close. It was repaired in February, if we remember, if there was snow on the ground, and
So some of those same shingles you think came up?
some of the same ones did, yes.
Okay.
But it went through the whole summer, and we know how hot it got this
Yep.
summer. So as Jesse said, you know, the adhesion of the tacking strip that's under there had the heat, because it was facing the sun for the whole morning part. It's just an act of God. It's
We had a 24-foot pontoon boat attached to 2 docks and a catwalk float from Racket River Drive
Picture of that.
down by Moody Bridge, turn and come down and land at our house.
They got a
That's
new
where
dock
it's spent.
and a boat?
We got a 24-foot pontoon boat, 2 docks,
Find
Salvage
yourself.
claim.
and a catwalk. And how it managed to come off, it just, you know,
And it made its
like
way all
it
the
knew
way
its
down.
way all the
Yeah,
way down.
yeah.
And it had to come all the way down to, you know, halfway down Lake Simon. So it was pretty impressive. The wind was pushing that thing
It's
around.
unfortunate.
And
that
the
we
boat
never
was
did it.
tied just as tight to those 2 docks, which were tied to each other. Nothing separated. It was one big giant raft. Very cool. And white caps everywhere. So, anyway. What do you have, Michael?
I just basically want to keep going off of what Larry had said about that. We did have the roof repaired very quickly. I do want to thank Chris Lemire for getting up there on Monday morning.
Yeah, they were done before
They were
noon.
notified, yeah, they were done before noon, because I was up there for a meeting at noon, and the roof was all repaired. It was like, wow. That was very nice. About the country club itself, the board of directors had didn't break, they had not renewed the lease with the last person that was leasing the kitchen up there. They decided they wanted to put it out for lease again. The person who had the lease owned most of the equipment that was in the kitchen. He had brought his own stuff in. They took out stuff that was owned by the town that was redlined. The big stove that was in there, the gas company redlined it and said, you cannot use this anymore, it's not safe. That was taken out, and he brought his own equipment in to run the kitchen for the past couple of years. Since he has moved out his stuff, the country club board of directors hired a commercial industrial cleaner to go in there I believe he's out of Glens Falls. He lives in Cranberry. And they power washed and steam jennied that whole kitchen. The kitchen was completely emptied out. They took everything out of there that was there. There was a old dishwasher and a 2-bay sink that were dilapidated, that were originally there. I think, as long as I can ever remember. They don't pass what the health department calls for. You need a 3-bay sink now. So that was all taken out of there by the board of directors and their people, and the place was cleaned the best that I've seen it cleaned in years. I mean, this man was up there with the power washer and the steam jenny, and he did the grease traps and all the walls, the floors behind the bar, and it's all still wide open. I've been having quite a few meetings with the board of directors, representative, Mr. Goldman, and Jerry is asking if the town would possibly go in halves with them to buy some essential equipment in there at the cost of about $3,500 on our side, and they will match us the other side of the monies. Whatever we put in, they'll also put in to basically get the kitchen up with a 3-bay sink that is called for by the Department of Labor, or Health, excuse me, and another dishwasher and a stove. So they're willing to put in the same amount of money that we would put in to get it so it's basically operational again, and it would all belong to the town at the end. All of this equipment would be left there, town-owned property, as they do with the lawnmower and the other things that the town has helped them purchase. So that's something that we need to talk about, if we would be willing to participate in purchasing some of this essential equipment. I know that there's some money left over on the grounds fertilization program that we always put money in.
Yep.
Anytime.
Yeah, we definitely can, that can come out of this year's budget if the board sees fit. And it's basically to replace equipment that we owned previously that had to be pulled out. And then the guy who ran the kitchen, Jim Ellis, the last few years, brought his own equipment in. And we didn't replace it at the time we got rid of it, so, because he was bringing his own in, so of course he took his with him, which he should, and so we think this is an opportunity to pick up some equipment that the club is gonna split, and they're offering to pay half for it, so that's a good thing. So,
I thought this was a moot point. I thought the prospective tenant was going to bring their equipment in and sell it, and then you said, forget it, they backed out.
Yeah,
So,
but now
this is,
this has come up,
This is all
so it's
new.
just something to think about.
yeah, I think, I'd wanna have a lot more information.
Yeah.
I have serious reservations about that. You know, if it's our stove, then we have an obligation when it
Yep.
breaks down to fix it.
Yep.
Or it's their refrigerator. It can get confusing,
Yeah.
who owns what, who's responsible to maintain, and that doesn't,
We don't have
I
to
don't
make a
feel
decision
comfortable with
today,
that.
this
No,
is
no,
a
I just
conversation.
wanna,
And this is
Yeah.
I
all,
wanna
this
see a
is
lot
all, this
more.
has all just happened in the last week.
Yep.
So, I mean, they
Few
were
days,
really
couple
entertaining
days.
somebody coming in, and they had negotiating meetings back and forth, and finally the other restaurateur decided not to do it.
Yep.
And, cause they were gonna bring in all their own equipment. So this was presented by Mr. Goldman to me to bring to the board. It would all belong to the town. Everything that we purchased and they purchased would belong to the town.
So we'll meet with the Cumberland Country Club board to
For
further
setting up another
discussion,
meeting, yes.
you know, cause they've gotta, what they need to do is figure out how they're gonna get a proper leasing in there to either run the restaurant, lease the premises, sublease the premise, because the Tupper Lake Golf Club is leased from the town of Tupper Lake from October till April every year, or April till October every year. And then the club subleases the restaurant building and the bar. So that is, they now have a job to do to figure out what's the best course of action to take, because they don't have anybody in there signed yet. And that's not unusual. Oftentimes they don't get anybody till spring. So they're just trying to reestablish what their options are, and
As the original lease was written up back in the day when things were plentiful, whatever monies were charged to the person who leased the kitchen, that money by the board of directors was put back into the building.
yeah,
Over the course of the years, as the memberships have dropped and funds got lower, got tight, they started using that for operating funds. So that was addressed again, and this board, who is very, very active, and I'm very impressed with these guys. They've done a great job of bringing the club back from the bottom of the barrel, and they're making money now, and you know, we just want to make sure that they can continue to go that way and do what we can to help them stay afloat, because I believe the golf course is a destination for Tupper Lake.
well, and we did that whole committee, review of this
Last year,
situation and
That was one of the
agreed
top
that
recommendations, that
Yeah.
the town help with
we
the
work
operation.
together to make it happen, so it would be a
Because
destination.
that was a long summer doing those,
And keep the facility and the property in good order. So, we'll continue to work with the country club board, they have a very good board right now, and, there's some really solid volunteering going on with those board members.
yes.
No question about it, and other people, including yourself, on the property, so,
I wanna congratulate
You know,
Jerry Goldman.
he's been working really hard on
I've
this.
had at least 4 meetings with him last week alone, and he's representing the
Yeah.
board of directors, and we're just trying to work together, and I'm bringing back this information to this board.
Yeah,
But Jerry has been substantial
Yeah.
in moving that thing forward. The clean job that they did in there was just fabulous.
I think
And
they're
they paid
trying
for
to
that.
get some things put to bed before winter, so they
The
can all
the clubhouse
take
has
their
been put to
vacations.
bed. They did that last week. They brought in their people, and all the pipes and everything were drained and winterized, so the club is put to bed for the winter right now.
So that's good.
Hey, Mike, I noticed, I was went for a walk this afternoon, there's a dumpster out in front of the restaurant,
Yes.
is that to be removed soon?
Yeah.
I was
That
on
was
the
a
phone
roofing
with
and,
Mr. Fletcher
That
yesterday.
was all the shed thing,
They
there was a lot of
cleaned
stuff
up
in
all
there.
in the back, John. That was again, Mr.
Around the
Bowman,
building.
Mr. Skiff, those guys went up there and they cleaned all the back of that place. And that back shed was full of stuff that was from there from years. So yes, that's gonna be taken out. Jerry said it'll be done by the end of the
is
week.
the shed itself worth keeping?
Mm.
If it's just-
As of right now, it is.
Okay.
They had a bunch of extra chairs that were stored outside. Supposedly, I was unable to be up there yesterday, but they were storing all those chairs that were outside back in there after they cleaned out all. There was stuff in there that had been just abandoned forever. So that
Never had a
dumpster is
good
full of
cleanup.
stuff. So they did a good
Good.
job with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did have Herbie and Ryan take a look at that shed at some point this fall, and you know we'll revisit it in the spring and see if it
I heard
needs
there's
any.
some structural issues with it, I don't,
I didn't notice anything that caught my eye that were terribly wrong with it. I mean, it was closed in one time with
It
just lattice
patched
work,
up, but-
and then they went in and put plywood over that, you know, so to stop the leaves and the wind and the rain from going in there, but, the stuff that they have stored in there is good stuff.
Yeah.
Now that they've gone through the whole,
yeah.
but they filled that dumpster up pretty good, so. As far as I'm concerned, that's a move in the right direction,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
cleaning it up.
Yep.
And I would, I could get in, because we have a key here.
Mhm.
Or if anybody wanted to go over and see the kitchen, the way it is right now is something that, there's nothing in there, it's just cleaned right up, the floors are clean, the walls,
You did a good job.
yep, all paid for by the board of directors.
Yep, the club did a good job.
Okay,
Anything else?
no, that's about it right now, that kinda took up my whole month.
Thank you, Mike. Mike and I are both on that committee, and I make some of the meetings, but he makes most of the meetings, so it's a good project. But yeah,
Very time consuming.
Yeah.
Two things, the so-called broadband committee, met last week. We've got a survey about ready to go out. We're going to mail it to about 120 some odd businesses located near the Dank existing fiber
nice.
to see if there's an interest in getting on fiber optic, if they're not already on it. We'll also put it on our website and create a link for people if they want to go online to complete that survey. It'll be a fairly quick turnaround. I think we were talking probably getting it the latter part of December, preferably before Christmas, so people don't forget about it. We're just getting together a mailing list and fine tuning things, but that should go out, I'm guessing, next week. As Angie mentioned in her report, we've got some new signs coming for the cross-country trails that'll recognize their current official name, the James C. Burnett Junior Recreation Trails. So there'll be one at the highway, one is at the turn into the country club, one probably over by the kiosk, and the directional signs, the wayfaring signs, I guess they call them, When you're out on the trail, when you get to different intersections, they're pretty beat up. They're weathered, they're probably 4 or 5 years old. They were Xerox copies put inside a plastic sheet. We're gonna do the same thing, at least temporarily. We do have some signs, since we are expecting more mountain bikes and e-bikes and fat tire bikes to use the trails on etiquette. Who yields right away to whom? And just, remind them being courteous and respectful.
You bring it in, you bring it out.
Yeah, right. There is additional work being done on the trail between the driving range and the ski slope road, some more clearing. I think I mentioned last meeting or the meeting before that I think we budgeted for it. I think the town should maybe step up, and that's a lot of work to expect of a handful of volunteers, myself not included. I haven't been up there to do any of it. It's pretty much John Gillis and Eric Lanthier. So we may need equipment up there to do some grading, setting. There's 4 bridges that need to be built, getting materials, so we may need to dip into that budget.
Is that just this season work, 4 bridges? Or is that over the 2-year period?
I think it's probably going to be over 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
The bridge over Cranberry Outlet was replaced. We bought telephone poles to do that. We have some left over that we might be able to put a bridge in that'll get from the near end of the driving range into the woods, so we can get in there with the equipment to do more work. And that's a fairly short bridge, but I guess winter seems like winter's here with a vengeance, and there are people that were already up there skiing. The trails are not being groomed yet. I think the equipment is probably being tuned up.
Yeah, it's at the shop right now getting tuned up.
Yeah,
and
good.
everything. Billy just told me that before he left.
Okay, great.
Maybe
So-
write it down.
Things are looking up. We hope to have a great year once again up there, and encourage everyone to get their skis, snowshoes, fat tire bikes, what have you, get up there and use them.
Good.
That's it.
Okay. Tracy?
Yeah, not much going on. Wayne's been busy with the dog, he said he's already been busy with the last month.
Yep.
already.
4 this time.
Yeah, he's already busier than that this month coming, so,
Pardon me.
and he's doing good, so my committee report's short.
Okay. So, I did most of my committee report during the open comment period, so you don't need to listen to any more, except I do want to say to you, Jim, that on one of our meetings when you made a comment on Facebook, I saw, that said the town did their public hearing on the budget before the public hearing on the budget, and it wasn't properly advertised. I want to correct you in that, because we advertised a work session at 5 p.m. followed by the public hearing on the budget at 6 p.m. Both were publicly open to the public, publicly advertised and open to the public. You were here at 5 o'clock.
Okay, they were publicly advertised?
Yeah.
Okay, because actually, because I read
For 3 weeks,
an article.
we actually gave the schedule for our budget before we had our very first work session of all the dates we were having them. And then they were notified, everybody was notified again publicly. So I think it was just you might have just missed that is all. So it's not but it was,
Yeah.
Aaron was here. Dan didn't make that, he was away, but
Yeah.
Aaron was here at 5 and then you came in at 6.
Yeah.
But you certainly were welcome at 5 as well.
Actually, this is interesting. Okay, so this is great. I'm very glad you brought this up. So I missed it.
Yeah.
It's out there.
That's okay, we miss stuff. We do it.
That's where I'm always trying to, with the town, with everyone, even with the village, of having things more conspicuously advertised, like on your sign outside of the building. Because I've been driving through towns, like from here to Plattsburgh, and they have those lights like they got at the high school, the signs, or the police department, and they actually have their budget hearings advertised on them.
We don't have a sign like that,
That's a
unfortunately.
very good segue into my next part of my committee report.
Exactly.
just you know.
So that would prevent what happened because I actually missed it in the fine print.
Yeah, I'm sure. And
No, that's good.
But I want to stand
No,
corrected.
I
I'm
agree.
correcting everybody tonight.
No,
you
no,
included.
no, I agree, and I'm not disagreeing with you. Too. No,
Okay.
no, that's just a point about
I'm
though
on a roll.
having it more conspicuously so that way it's easier for us to see it.
So let's talk about this sign out here,
Yes,
or sort of the lack thereof,
that's a,
because the
that
parts are
was-
missing. So it's very hard to put little plastic letters in there and have them get swooped away by the wind. When the 150-pound glass cover went flying in the wind one time, because I myself picked it up out of the parking lot one day and dragged it to the building. So we feel like that's unsafe for our people in the office to be trying to hold that up and put signs in. So we are working right now. There is a grant that we've been talking about for 2 long years, way too long, for putting new signs in Tupper Lake. The signs that welcome you to Tupper Lake, down at the junction and out at Moody and out on the Saranac Lake Road. Those are our big welcoming signs, and those are going to be replaced. I don't want to commit to 2020 spring, but I'm hoping they will be put in
Leave it when they see it.
2020.
Yeah.
We're going to have a big celebration that
Long
day.
time coming, Jim.
We've been talking about it forever. We're getting there.
No.
This is a project that we have a grant for jointly with the village. The funds are going to go through the village, but the town is going to reap the benefits of those 3 signs, and Melissa McManus is spearheading all that. There'll be lots of new wayfinding signs. We're going to be using the new logo all over the place. I was positive we were going to have a new electronic sign out front. Now we think we have another source of where we can get the funding to pay for that. So pardon me, we're going to have, Melissa just brought this to my attention recently. I was announcing it to the board first and foremost here tonight. There is another grant. Melissa has some kind of magic where she can get grant money from here that's jointly between other towns and communities, and waterfront availability. So we have to do a little landscaping for the town hall in the spring, and if we do that, then we can use that project as our match to get money to put a new sign up. So if the sign costs this much, we would only have to pay for half of it and use the match that we spend on time and manpower, even if it's our own time and manpower and materials, and that will go towards the match for the grant for the sign. So I can pretty much safely say there will be a sign out there next spring at the town hall, even if it's not at Moody or the junction or Saranac Lake.
Is this grant any quicker than the grant that we're waiting on forever?
Hopefully. It's hard to say. I promise that grant's gonna happen, but because sometimes you get a grant, you get this big letter saying you're awarded money for a grant. And I've been holding out on this for about 3 weeks. We did get a grant to do some work at the pro shop to winterize it for cross-country skiing. But we don't officially have it yet, because once you get a little notice that says you've been approved for the grant, but it's got to go through the New York State, what they call the grant gateway. And until you have a contract with a contract number, that's just an award, but it's not official until we get that grant. So we don't have that contract yet.
They told us we have it.
They
but we
told
don't
us
have
we have it, but we gotta wait till we actually have a number through the grant gateway, which is an electronic version of how you go through processing everything with the state for grants. So more on that next time, hopefully, we'll have it. I've been kind of waiting, saying I don't wanna say we have a grant, because we don't have a grant, but we have a grant, so it's the way it works.
Whenever Patty and I talk, we rekindle this every
It's
time.
like you're going in circles all
This
the
is-
time over these grants.
That's
6 years now, we've been talking
Just
about
curious.
these entrance signs to our community.
How much would it cost to put a sign like that up?
I think we established it was somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000.
Okay.
So, you know, it's doable,
No.
but,
Oh, that,
but, but we, the town, don't wanna pay 100% for it. We like to get grant money to help pay for things, because it saves you all money.
So
Your
as
parents.
the town, are you exempt from signage code?
Well, that's a very good point,
Because
Jesse, because that was my
I've had-
next point. according
people.
to the current code, I was told 2 years ago when I asked the code officer, the village code officer, because we are located in the village at this building, can we put an electronic sign out in front? Because that's how long we've been talking about it. It's probably 4 years, not 2 years. And the answer was the code doesn't allow it. So I can tell you that those people who worked on the draft proposed update to the code, it is allowed for certain places, particularly the town office building and the emergency services building. Am I right, John?
It's a governmental,
Yeah.
quasi.
It's not for the world, but it's for certain, assigned spots that are allowable. Because according to the current code, electronic signs are not allowed. So,
Cause you may get some,
so I wanna
Some
be within the
backlash.
letter of the law.
right,
So we will put that sign up when it's allowed.
and you'll get some flack from the APO people.
Excellent.
For those of you who don't know, in my real life, I am a compliance officer, and that means you follow the letter of the law. Even if it means when you're at the four-way intersection on McLaughlin and there's no traffic in sight, you still have to stop at the stop sign.
Yeah.
Remember I said that, you guys with your new licenses out there, okay? So those are the laws and the rules we have to follow. And I
Society
certainly
says-
don't expect the town to be any different than myself. If it's not allowed, it's not allowed. So hopefully the new code and the new allowing of the sign and the money will come through and it'll all be done in 2020. Put a big hope on there.
So did Tupper Lake adopt the new zoning law?
No,
They
we're
haven't.
still
yet.
working on it.
So is that, so the sign?
I won't speak to any of that because I'm
Okay.
not the code officer.
Right, okay,
But I'll tell you, it's not adopted yet.
Okay.
It's still,
It's a long way out,
Yeah.
actually.
it's gotta go before the planning board, then they have to review it all, and then they make recommendations to both the village and the town, then there's public hearings that have to be held. It is a long, drawn-out
And
process.
legal review.
And legal review, yeah, that's right too. So we can't forget the legal review, that's most important. So,
And even though we may be exempt from something, we had to at least try and comply to the extent we can with the spirit of the
yeah,
regulations.
absolutely.
And if all else fails, where something is not allowed, there are variances.
Yeah.
If you have difficulties and unnecessary hardships. But we'll see where this code goes.
Yeah.
'Cause that's some of the good stuff that's coming out of it. We've got,
There is
some
some
good
very
stuff
good
for
stuff in the
signs.
code,
and
yeah.
local businesses where you don't have to go to a public hearing and then wait a month. And, it would empower the code enforcement officers to, change of use type businesses. It would be a
I know
fairly
everybody's
simple
hung up
process.
on, the fact that it is a regulation, but we have that now and we've had it for
Yeah.
decades in Tupper Lake. This
And
isn't a
regulations.
new code that's never happened. We've had a code for years and years and years.
Since 1962.
Yeah, and I know we're all hung up on campers because people are getting, excited about that part of it. But there are, outside of that questionable item, there are a lot of good opportunities for improvement in the process for local business to happen in Tupper Lake in this new draft of the code. So, once we all go through it with the magnifying glass,
Hopefully help clean up the community.
we'll,
Yeah, because because I've noticed too, the Family Dollar, now the sign is completely out.
yeah.
You drive by there and it's pitch dark.
Well, that's a corporate thing with those guys.
At least they're consistent.
It's completely out now.
They're flickering, they're having
I
trouble
know.
lighting.
It's crazy. Okay,
Dollar General, that is, let me correct that.
and by the way, I missed something that we need to put on the agenda at the end of it, so we're gonna call it 10.10. And that is a simple little process of reviewing our, renewing our lease on our copier upstairs, because we lease that every year, and our lease is up, so we need to approve the new lease. Okay.
Old business.
We're at number 10, new business, 10.1. We would like to adopt the 2020 budget with all the changes that we made, and I have to say, the board did a wonderful job working on it. Samantha Davies, our town accountant, did a lot of hard work getting all the information ready for us. And we worked and worked, and we were about just over $10,000 shy of, did I give you the copy?
Yeah.
Of the tax cap. So Sam and I and the board agreed on a few things that we, did I pick that up on the printer? We changed a few $1,000s, $5,000 out of the general fund and the highway equipment fund. And we also, getting back to the cross-country ski center, we have some money in the budget to spend on that. And we also had some revenues that were set aside in a restricted reserved fund balance that we did not pull into the budget to use toward that. So that was a piece that we did.
That's donations,
Yes.
that's not tax money.
Right,
That's
that
people
was
have
pure
generously given,
donations
yep.
that people go cross-country skiing up there. We have this nice little sign-in booth and envelopes there, and people write checks to the town for $50, $20, $100, $10, and they make a contribution because it's free. It's free for you to go skiing, it's free for all your friends to go skiing, there's no fee. So people think, well, gee, I'll make a contribution to help buy the gas or update the equipment or improve the trails. So we have money in that, over $10,000, so we took $10,000 out of that fund and put it in as a revenue in the budget to offset the expenses that we have in there. So this budget is ready to be adopted with no tax increase in the, no tax cap increase. We are within the 2% tax cap, and we have a tiny little bit of an increase, less than 1% in the tax rate from last year to this year. Look at that. Here's my big giant sheet. Do I have it down here, Laura? Oh, yeah. Oh, it was down here. Did you bring those great big long sheets down? Oh, they're upstairs? The, you know, the big ones? That
Yeah,
they're by the
they're
printer?
upstairs, so.
Mike can run out there right by the copier on the table. Remember you said you want me to hand those out?
Yeah, but you took them.
Are you
I
sure?
didn't see them. The only thing left there was the budget.
Okay. Well, I guess that will be for, if the press would like a copy of that, I'll be happy to give you one, with the comparables, but it doesn't change much from the one you already have, because we only had to play around with less than $15,000.
What you're talking about?
Yeah. Is that the most recent one I sent you?
Yep.
Okay, so the whole spending on the budget increase is from, oh, yeah, was this the one? Yes. Okay. We had about $50,000 total from 1,723,000 to 1,771,000. So it's about $50,000 increase in spending overall in this entire budget, the whole entire thing for the year, which is a small amount to go from one year to the next.
This is compared to last year.
Compared to last year, yep. Yeah, $50,000 more spending in 2020 versus 2019, and don't forget we had raises that are already in the budget for the health insurance increase, and that changed a little bit from the last version of the budget to this version because we have the actual figures, so we had to allow for that. And oh, there you go. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, John had it on his thing here. So we have the increase for the village taxpayers is a 0.95%, which is less than 1%, and the increase for the town taxpayers is a 0.97, which is also less than 1%. And so, I mean, it's a good budget, and we worked hard to keep it that way.
Considering the cost of living is.
Social Security's given everybody a 1.6% cost of living increase. I learned that on the phone today. talking to Social Security, but the cost of living anywhere runs from 2 to 3%, I think, during the year, and we're less than 1% increase in this budget, which puts us within the tax cap. So I believe the governor's been insisting on the local government meeting the tax cap since
Too bad the state didn't.
2012 or 14, and we have been within that ever since. So, yeah, so that's good. So does anybody have any questions on that? If you do, we can. Otherwise, I think you've all had lots of budget talk over the last few weeks.
I would move that we adopt this budget, and I wanna specifically thank Patty for all the hard work you've done. I've been by the office many nights while you're in here working away on it, and your hard work looks like it's gonna pay off if we vote to adopt it, so I'll move that.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that.
Alright,
So we have a motion by John and a second by Tracy.
good job, Patty.
Thanks, Tracy. Questions or comments?
I agree with what John said, Patty. You put a lot of hours in this, and thank you very much.
And Samantha too.
Most definitely.
And Samantha
Work
also.
hard.
Roll call vote?
Aye.
Okay. How many people work for the town here in the summer? Raise your hand. Y'all come back next year, right?
You all come back, yeah.
Budget's good. Good for you guys too, by the way. Okay, 10.2 is to approve the judge and the court clerk to attend a seminar in Saratoga Springs on December 4th.
I'll move it.
Mike,
Second.
John, roll call vote.
Aye.
Just for the day, huh, Laura?
No, it's overnight.
Okay. 10.3, to authorize advertising on Auctions International, a used 2005 pickup truck from the Highway Department. I don't know if that is with a plow. I wanna say I think it is, cause the new truck came with a plow, right?
Right, yeah, but.
So I don't know if they're moving that plow to another vehicle, or, so I don't know the answer to that, and Billy's not here, so. We'll just get it authorized to put it on Actions International, and we'll get it listed for a 2-week period prior to the next board meeting. Have a motion to that, please?
Moved.
Mary,
Second.
Tracy, roll call vote,
Aye.
Aye.
thank you. Number 10.4 is to approve execution of the contract with C2AE Engineering to revise the water and sewer map, plan, and reports for, this is for water and sewer districts consolidation. These are again for the districts that have been paid off, and that is in 2019 the town was able to pay off, the residents of the districts were able to pay off District 8.2 water and District 8.2 sewer. That's down at Hay Meadow, the second phase. And the other district that was paid off is on Broad Street, what we formerly referred to as Broad Street Extension. So from Sunset to the end of Broad Street. That district has been paid off in 2019 for water and sewer debt. So those are the 4 districts that are gonna be moved into District 1. And before we can do that, we have to have the engineer who designed all the maps and drawings for those, update them to, and we have a contract submitted for approval by C2AE in the amount of $3,500 total. That's for all of them. And by the way, all of that is on the DANC website, DANC, the Development Authority of the North Country. You guys, builders, developers, or just curious, you can go on their website and look up Town of Tupper Lake, and all the GIS mapping that we have throughout the town, which is a lot, is on there. So it's open to the public, and we pay them to manage it and to make it available to the public, so it's a good thing.
I see the villages getting into the GIS mapping of its infrastructure, which, I mean, this is gonna pay us off in space
Oh my goodness.
over the years.
So the village, on that note, they were applying for a grant for the GIS mapping of all of their infrastructure, because that grant was available, And for some reason, I understand that that grant is no longer available this year, so
Oh.
we'll have to look for it for next year. And because they were gonna apply for that, we had to, backtrack our grant application for records inventory
Oh, yeah.
and till next year. So now we might be able to get in on that. I just talked to Carrie before I came down here. She called to tell me that was something they talked about at that water and sewer meeting
Oh.
today, which I wasn't able to attend at the last minute. So, we'll be working on that, and if we can get in on that grant, it will help with the records archives for the town, plus get us some equipment to have a good backup for our server for all of our, computers in the office.
I haven't been
So-
going to those meetings that you and I
Yeah.
normally attend because Water District
No,
3 is
No.
done.
yeah, and I normally go, but this time I didn't, Carrie didn't come either, she called in.
Oh.
So they went through all their water and sewer district, items, and I have the agenda somewhere, but, I spoke to Carrie after about these, this public hearing we need to set tonight, and, she mentioned that was on the, table today when she brought it to their attention today, so they'll put that off for a year or so, and we'll have an opportunity to get in on that grant application to take care of the stuff we want to here, so, hopefully. We applied for it last year and weren't awarded it, because they only have so much money, and they had so many applications that other people got it, but now they have more funds to give out for this year, so. So Lori, that can, be back on your schedule, and Carrie will help us out with that. Okay. So, do we wanna make a motion to approve that contract with C2AA for the update to the water and sewer maps for this water sewer district?
I'll move it, Patty.
Mike?
Question I have.
Yep.
Has our attorney reviewed it?
Oh, yes, it's a single page, agreement, and yes, he has.
Mike, you voted it?
Yep.
I'll second it.
John? Roll call vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, number 10.5, well, I guess this, the way we have that written on the agenda,
Oh, you already got it?
yeah,
It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote under
Yeah.
10.5 actually.
I guess I jumped the
For
gun.
2 weeks.
so 10.5 would be regarding the amendments to consolidate the two water and sewer districts, which were paid off in 2019, to move into water and sewer district number 1, and we will hold a public hearing that,
Will the map plan and report that the engineer's gonna do be done before that?
it might not be all prettied up, but it'll be roughed out, yep. So, and we've already worked with Real Property on that for the 2020 taxes, so this is just like buttoning the whole thing up. So,
I would move that we
we'll
hold
hold
a public hearing on December 12th at 6 PM regarding the consolidation of water and sewer districts.
okay, moved by John,
I'll second it.
Mike, got that confusion out of the way.
So that's
we're
still
taking out
10.8, right?
Yeah, 10, we've
So,
done 10.
so we're
Yeah.
taking out
Yeah.
So
10.8.
we're taking out 5.
Okay.
So, roll call vote on that?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
10.10.
You know, and Patty, just for quickly, consolidating these water districts in the long run is gonna be so good for the district. I mean, if you're a single district, like one of those districts there, and something major happens, the people that are in that district pay for everything. But after they get their district paid off and they go into District 1 and a major problem occurs, everybody in District 1 pays for it. So it's gonna have, you know, instead of one person paying all the bill, you got a bunch of people paying it.
Yep,
So
hundreds.
it's definitely a real good thing that we're doing with this
And
consolidation.
in that vein, there's an asset management report
Mm-hmm.
that we've had for some time that we should act on.
Yeah,
Well,
we'll
we're
phase
putting,
into
it's
it.
kind of creating a
Slush fund.
rainy day
Yeah.
account, for each
Emergency,
district.
whatever.
And I think,
Yes, that needs to be addressed,
yeah,
because we've talked about it for a
That'll
while.
go into the next, budget session for, phasing into those figures
Yes.
that were recommended in that asset management plan.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that will create, maintenance funds for future work on any of the districts.
I think that fund was at NBT Bank.
Maybe. I don't know, we couldn't find any reason why it was there, so it's back in its proper place.
Survey here?
You never know. Next, we have
Bless you.
to approve a tumbling contract with Mallory, I can't say that.
Easy for you.
Bless her.
Mallory.
Yeah, easy for me to say. Just to continue the tumbling that she's been doing with the kids.
I'll make a motion.
Tracy
Second?
and John, roll call vote.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Thank you.
She's done a good job with
Oh,
that
she's
that
awesome.
program has just exploded with
Yep,
participation with the
Yeah.
young kids, so
Yeah.
it's a great
we have a
thing.
waiting list.
Where is it?
In the library,
They do it down in the basement of the library on
Oh.
Saturday mornings.
I think there's 3 different age groups, 3 to 5,
There's like
5 to 8.
there's 5 different age groups now.
Yeah,
And she added 2 this year, so, because it was so popular.
so you got 3 to 5, 5 to 8, 8 to 10.
Because there's only 8 kids in each group, so
Oh.
she does a great job with that. If you guys are ever bored on Saturday morning, go on down and get yourself some community service hours. It's fun, they're all adorable.
7. 10.
Number 10.7 is to review and approve the changes to the town facilities use form as recommended by the, it was a combination of efforts between our recreation director, our town clerk, and our attorney. To get, as we had this form last year, and all these little questions would come up every time somebody filled one out. Oh, do I need a liquor license? Do I not? Do I need insurance? Do I not? So this new draft will address all those hopefully and help people understand the facilities use. It's mostly to keep the town safe for our properties when you rent them or lease them for an event like a graduation party or a wedding reception or family reunion or birthday party or such. So everyone's had plenty of time to review this, I believe, because we've been talking about it a couple months.
And that's the main changes, is
Yeah.
the liquor.
Yep,
Yeah, the alcohol section's a bit redundant.
yep,
Yeah.
yes.
Same thing twice, but.
Yeah.
Needed to be done.
So the new changes, you need a liquor license.
So get on that for Little Wolfstock. They will. Your people take care of that.
Paul.
Oh. Any
Our
there,
people will tell your people, get the new form.
Get the new form. Actually, those banquet forms, I've applied for a lot for the events I've done, they're easy
Yeah.
to get. They're
It's
really
not that
quick.
big of a
Yeah,
deal,
Is that a
really.
pretty quick turnaround, Dave?
Yeah.
Very quick.
Yeah, we
About
get
15
about
days.
6, yeah, about 6 weeks at the outset, but
Yeah.
it's not, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're easy.
So, I mean, if you have an event at the Wild Center, you're gonna do the same thing and get and have a
Protect
separate
that.
certificate of insurance
It's
and
for, it's
Yeah,
for,
it was meant to be
people
for the
do, I mean,
VFW.
it's common to do that now, so
Or have that alcohol.
it's where we are.
I
So-
move that we approve the application for use of town of Tupper Lake facilities.
I second it.
Thank you, Tracy and John. Roll call vote,
Aye.
okay.
There, we do the lease.
So our next item is to support and endorse the changes to the unit management plan as proposed by the DEC and DOT. And this was a good article.
Yeah, and the plan itself, for instance, there's a couple parcels of land that weren't owned by the state. They've since been acquired. They are getting their act together so they're compliant with the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation requirements. So they've corrected the legal deficiencies. Oh, and they changed the wording of the state land master plan to allow for a recreation trail to occupy where the rail now is. So I think they've got their ducks in a line, and we've been very supportive, the town of Tupper Lake, for the rail trail, and I don't think that's wavered at all. And I would move that the town of Tupper Lake endorse the draft unit management plan amendment for the Remsen Lake Placid travel corridor.
I'll second that, Patty.
And I will wholeheartedly, myself, be thrilled when this comes to fruition.
I got my bike ready to go.
This is great.
Right around.
Do we have a roll call vote on that, please?
Aye.
Thank you. Lori, can you make that into a really pretty resolution to send off, and I'll give you some addresses of where it should go.
Okay.
And, you know, everybody seems to be pretty happy with this, so it's a win-win for Tupper Lake, people. I mean, we're gonna have it all right here at the junction, the trail and the rail, and
You guys be graduating from college.
Best of
what
both
could,
worlds.
what could be better,
Yeah.
right? Lastly on our agenda is to approve a renewal to our lease on the copier for upstairs. And I think the total,
$137 or something.
yeah, I just had it here.
This one?
We pay right now $134.75 a month,
Yeah.
and we're gonna pay $139.59. So a couple dollars a month more, for the lease, but yet the maintenance is reduced by about $75 over the year. So the actual annual savings is, $14.10,
A
so
little over $1 a month.
saving money.
Yeah.
Good thing, because,
Without
And that's a
having to
newer,
worry
that's a
about it.
newer copy?
yes,
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
There.
thank you, Tracy.
Second.
John? Roll call vote,
Aye.
Aye.
and I have to say, this copier guy worked hard for this, didn't he, Lori? We put him through the ringer, the poor guy, so he,
Answering questions.
this is SimQuest, by the way. You probably have those up at Mercy, I bet.
I don't know, she says. Well,
Well,
my
the
guy
thing
worked
about
hard
them
for you.
is they have a very good maintenance. If we have a breakdown this morning, chances are the technician's gonna be here before 4 o'clock to fix it. And there's so many people in Tupper Lake that have their copiers with the same company, there's another chance that the guy could be up the street when we call, and then he can just stop by. So we don't, there's not a whole lot of choices out there, and this is all state contract pricing, by the way. So, we are at the point of the meeting where we are open to public comment once again, if anybody have anything they'd like to say.
I have one more thing.
What?
Okay.
You're on the floor.
There we go. My quick 3 minutes. Well, last Wednesday, there was a educational forum at Paul Smith's College. I apologize, I did not bring in the flyer to really appropriately address the specific people involved, but it was sponsored by Mercy Care for the Adirondacks.
Regretfully, I had to miss it, but
It was,
3 people from my workplace went.
oh, good.
Yeah.
It was important, and it was basically addressing the healthcare shortage and the fact that there's a drastic shortage of health aides, I should say home aides, CNAs, which are certified nursing assistants, and the fact that it's going to get even worse because the baby boomers, who are people who were born from 1946 to 1964, they will be, not me, I'm only 20. They will be retiring, and right now, I forget the years, but it's going to go from 39.1 million to 69.7 million people retiring, and that is one of the reasons for the healthcare shortage. The importance of that is this is a countrywide situation, a countrywide shortage. New York State has a shortage just like everybody else. Within New York State, the North Country is in a worse situation. Within the North Country, the Tri-Lakes area is in an even worse situation. They had something called the elder support ratio, and that is how many people between the ages of 18 and 64 will be available to provide services for somebody who is 65 or older. So that ratio. And the Tri-Lakes, and they have it from the year 1900 when there were something like 13.5 people for every person over 65, and my mom was one of 15, grew up on a farm in Virginia, so you had those numbers. Well, the Tri-Lakes area is already at the projected year of 2030 on their scale, which is 2.8 people
Per.
between 8, yes, per person over 65. This is a major crisis here. And what we find in healthcare is that we're just not rotating the same people around. And all of this to say, I encourage new industry to be brought into the area. With new industry comes families, and with those individuals, and within those families, some people might want to work in healthcare. It is very difficult to get people to work in healthcare, and we're in a place where location is good for tourism, but not good for people who want to work in healthcare. And we all should be concerned about that. It affects the nursing home. It affects Sunmount as well. It affects all of healthcare, and so
It affects where I work, it
There you
affects
go.
where you work.
exactly.
We're often at the same job fair.
Yes,
like,
we are.
no, come work for us.
Exactly.
No, come work for us.
Yeah, and the reality is, healthcare is a niche. The main speaker stated a story about a CNA, certified nursing assistant, who had worked for 20, 30 years, was excellent, and had to leave that job and go work in a grocery store because they paid an hourly wage that was higher than in the nursing home. And that's fine. That's a choice, and understood, an understood choice. But the reverse is not necessarily the best thing. For people who want to work on computers and people who want to, I always say, sell rice, basically work outside of healthcare, not all of those people should work in healthcare. You don't want just anybody caring for your loved one. It is a specialty just like everything else.
Yeah.
Carpentry, working with wood, things like that. So we want to encourage those people who have the caring gene, so to speak, to work in healthcare and make those opportunities. So one of the things that I'm doing is I'll be creating a system where we can reach out and see what types of links we can create within the community, because it is a serious crisis now, which makes facilities. Elderwood was represented as well. We have to use contract labor, and that literally sucks the money out of facilities. And Elderwood's a major corporation that has 50 some odd facilities, so they're in a better position than we would be as a small hospital system. But anyway, I just wanted to make that plug. Having said that, I will say that we have a free CNA class starting on November 25th. So, but I really think that the town and the village needs to pay attention to this.
Yeah.
That we can't necessarily say, well, we're going to bring healthcare workers in. Really, we need to bring families in, and within that, there's people who might want to work in different fields.
Yeah.
Anyway, soapbox
So
stuff.
you guys, if you're interested in healthcare,
It's a way to, it's entry into it, and from there
you will
become
always
an LPN.
have a job.
Seriously, in
And
your
doctors-
lifetime.
And we're in the same shortage
Yeah.
of doctors, any medical professional in,
Yep.
in
So
the
how
North
old do you have to
Country.
be to be CNA?
18.
18.
We do hire people who graduate from BOCES. We hire people who graduate from North Country Community College,
Yeah.
and I'll be reaching out to other places as well.
They train, we train,
Yeah.
BOCES trains. I mean, if you are anybody thinking of going into nursing,
It's a
you
great way
could
to
do
start.
this while you're in school, and most of us have so many flexible hours in the field, most places that offer this type of work, that you could actually work your schedule while going to school, and that's always worked out really well for some people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not be overwhelmed.
Or if you know persons who are early retired and they want to have a few hours here and there of a side job while they're, they just want to get out in the community. I mean, there's no age limit to being in these jobs either. So,
My cousin Danny does that. She's a CNA at Mercy,
yeah,
and she goes to college in
yeah,
Plattsburgh.
you can do all that. Yeah, it's awesome.
Can I say one thing since there's young kids here?
Yeah.
Be careful what you do in your private life. It is really important that you get through high school unscathed.
Yes.
Meaning that you don't get arrested, because I say that in very seriousness. The jobs in this area are predominantly state. 60% of the people who work for the state. That's education, that's Sunmount, that's law enforcement. If you can't pass fingerprinting, you automatically off the top.
Serious background checks.
Yeah,
for these jobs.
we
As
get
they
that on
should be.
Yes, and so the state, you guys, so you have to pass fingerprinting, you have to pass a background check, you have to be really mindful of what you do.
Yeah.
because
Never
you
do
will be
anything.
excluded.
Never do anything that's gonna affect you or anybody else
Yeah.
for the rest of your lives.
And a nice
Just beware.
responsible employer would go to Facebook first to see what's going on in your
Yeah,
life.
yeah, seriously.
Stay
And
off
then Google
Facebook.
you.
But here's
You
the
learn a
thing,
lot from
I
that.
will say this, even with Facebook, because the healthcare crisis is what it is, we may still take somebody, but what will always happen is the state will get back to us and say that person is not eligible
Yeah.
because of their background check. So
Yeah.
even if I don't like something on Facebook, I may choose to hire you, but the state may
Give you a
say, no,
chance.
you have conviction.
Yeah.
It's not even necessarily a conviction, by the way, it's an arrest. We hear about it all, so just be careful. Soapbox done, sorry.
That was pretty sobering. Man.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah.
You and the supervisor had a lot to say tonight, wow.
Didn't we?
You know.
We buddy up all over the place. We are all on the same track, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Madeline, I'd like to say Mercy's very lucky to have you.
Yes.
I mean,
Thank you.
we've never had anybody come to our meetings like you do and bring the information
Keep
that
us
you do.
informed. It's
And,
wonderful.
you're a very good spokesperson for your
Thank
field,
you
for sure.
very much.
And always
Appreciate
welcome here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All set? Anybody want to adjourn our meeting?
No executive session?
No executive session.
I make the motion to adjourn.
John, what is that?
I gotta start on that.
Very good.